The Greater Toronto Area is home to about 6.5 million people. It is here that the Liberals hope to pick up some of the 15 seats they need to form a majority. But the Conservatives had several close races in the GTA in 2019, and they're hoping that this time the voters feel a little more blue.
How are you doing? My name is Majid Jowhari. I'm your federal Liberal candidate. As you know, the election has been called, and I'm knocking on door to ask for your support. I've been your member of parliament for the last 6 years. I'm sure you received a lot of my communication in the mail.
The riding of Richmond Hill was won by the Liberal candidate, Majid Jowhari, by the slimmest of margins, 212 votes.
Okay, I'll be there in about 5 minutes because it's right up the street.
You won by a squeaker in 2019. What was that like?
Well, first of all, that was awesome. I love that, and we had worked so hard. So many of the team members that you see here, they were there in 2019, and you know, we put everything at the table. We poured our heart, and we knocked on many doors, and we talked to a lot of constituents, and we told our story, and our story resonated. And I'm proud to, you know, be representing Richmond Hill in 2019, and hopefully I'll have that opportunity to represent Richmond Hill in the next government as well.
Must have been a few heart-stopping moments, though.
Absolutely. This is the nature of a campaign. You know, as you knock on doors and you talk to people, and you share the story, you shared what you've done, and you know, you're hoping that it resonates, and it did, and therefore, you know, we're back.
My name is Costas. I'm the Conservative Party of Canada candidate for the upcoming election, September 20th.
So the Conservatives have more than a fighting chance to take this riding. Former incumbent Costa Menegakis is facing his Liberal opponent once again.
The ballot question, you know, how are we coming out of this pandemic, and who do we really trust moving forward? So. Well, 212 votes is a heartbreaking loss, of course, but it spoke volumes in an election where, admittedly, there was almost a majority. I know quite a bit of Liberal support, certainly in Ontario. This riding was one of the closest. It was rewarding for me and my volunteers because we knocked on every door 3 times. We went around the entire riding 3 times during the course of the year before the campaign. We knew when the election was going to happen because it was a fixed election date. But it also motivating for us this time because we know we came that close. We have a strong message, and I think we're gonna do it this time.
Okay, and you want to put 2 on each side?
The New Democrats are fielding longtime candidate Adam DeVita. What do you hope for on September 20th?
Well, obviously, I would like to see Jagmeet Singh be Prime Minister of Canada.
And what about personally?
Personally, well, ideally, I should be elected. If we win a majority government, that'll happen.
You know, I've worked with canvassers, and I've done it myself.
But Professor Joe McDonald of Seneca College feels the NDP's chances are slim to none in York Region.
This is not NDP territory. And what the NDP has, you know, had on offer does not appeal, generally speaking, to, you know, to a community that is truly middle class, that is worried primarily about the economy and how well they will do, that is worried about, you know, large government versus small government. They want to make sure that their tax dollar is managed really well, and they don't want to pay a lot of them. The NDP doesn't speak to that. I mean, the NDP has become, in very many respects, very much a downtown urban riding. And that's not the case up here.
These ones were used in 2019.
Adam DeVita says in 2021, the New Democrats emerged as heroes during the pandemic.
Well, as long as people remember what we did. For example, moving CERB from $1,000 a month to $2,000 a month, that's critical. You can see, the backdrop, a lot of houses here. You're not carrying those houses on $1,000 a month, let alone putting food on the table. So that was an extremely important thing to, A, save the economy from a real estate collapse like they had in the States in like 2008, but also stop people from being in a position where they have to choose, do I have to go to work or do I have to stay home and fight the pandemic by not being able to get sick or spreading the disease.
The polls tell us the fight is between the Liberals and the Conservatives. A win is vital in Richmond Hill and the surrounding battleground ridings in York Region.
These are the ridings, these are the regions that can stand as a proxy for the rest of the country. So if the Conservative campaign has the wheels fall off, they're going to see it up here. If the Liberal campaign has the wheels fall off, we're going to see it here. So maybe, and I'm not suggesting that this is a fact, but maybe York Region will be a bellwether region for the final outcome. I expect that Erin O'Toole and Justin Trudeau will be quite familiar with York Region before September 20th.
Richmond Hill is a quickly growing city north of Toronto. Its smart and sustainable expansion relies heavily on the federal government.
Municipalities like Richmond Hill are very much where the rubber meets the road. Municipalities like Richmond Hill are the drivers in many cases of the economy in Canada. It's where people live. And so the support that other levels of government can give municipalities like Richmond Hill is incredibly important. The tax rate is one of the major driver of what we are able to spend and provide services for people. But the property tax rate alone is not going to sustain all of the infrastructure and all of the other things that are expected from municipalities like Richmond Hill. So support from other levels of government is always important, and it's becoming more and more important over the last few years.
Richmond Hill is struggling to maintain its small-town feel while maturing into an expanding suburban city.
Richmond Hill for a really long time has been a really desirable place for people to live. So, we have a lot of people wanting to live here, and a lot of people in the future will be living here too. So we need to accommodate the long-time residents, but we also need to accommodate the people that will come in the future.
Because at the end of the day, it's for Canadians to make that decision.
As the Member of Parliament for the area, Majid Jowhari has been following issues his constituents care about.
Let's start with the affordability. When we talk about affordability, first and foremost, the cost of living. The cost of living has been going, increasing over the last many years, and especially the cost of living over the last year and a half has increased. You could talk about the property taxes, and I know it's municipal, but this is something that's big in Richmond Hill. We can talk about food costs, we can talk about internet costs, we can talk about affordable housing for first-time home buyers. Anything that has to do with that, even for seniors, being able to live on their pension and OSN and GIS, those are all, I would like to bundle it around affordability and talk about that, whether there are families that they can afford childcare. And as you know, we've signed 8 of the 13 provinces and territories have already signed up, and we are hoping Ontario would follow up very quickly as well. So affordability is really number one.
I'm so delighted to see you today.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
well, no pressure, but I just hope by 20th of September.
It's a pleasure seeing you, believe me.
Thank you, sir.
And, this is what I love about democracy. People go and talk to people.
Thank you, sir.
See, this is something which is very encouraging and heartening for all of us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the warm welcome at your door. I hope I earn your vote by the 20th of September. Okay? And then if we get into the issues as we speak, the issues that are important to Richmond Hill, transportation. Richmond Hill is nestled in the heart of the GTA. It's a corridor for Newmarket, Aurora, coming south through Richmond Hill, through Thornhill and back and forth. Yonge Street, where Main Street is in Richmond Hill, is really literally a parking lot between 7 to 9 in the morning and between 5 to 7 in the afternoon. So there's a lot of demand for more infrastructure, particularly a subway coming to Richmond Hill. And I'm happy that leader Erin O'Toole, the Conservative Party leader, has pledged his full support to finally get that Yonge North line up to Richmond Hill. That's an issue that comes up very often. We've heard a lot of, we don't want an election. Why is there an election? It's the middle of the summer, people are on vacation, the pandemic, people are getting back to work, the kids with the school issue. So the biggest thing we're hearing of is, why is there an election at this time?
As Canadians know, this is a moment where we're going to be taking decisions that will last not just for the coming months, but for the coming decades. and Canadians deserve their say.
Justin Trudeau called this election less than 2 years into his mandate. All three party candidates have their take on that decision.
To a large extent, we have the initial part of the pandemic under control. Okay, now we need to look forward. And the look forward is going to look very different than the look forward that we had in 2019. What was important to us in 2019 and what was important to Canadians in 2019 are not the same after pandemic, because pandemic, and I'll use a metaphor, is almost like we kind of shook the water and a lot of things surfaced. So is it time to call an election? I think it's the right time, because it gives the people the opportunity to be able to say, do I agree with the next 17 months and the next 17 years, and how do I want it to see it? And this is a great opportunity to do that.
Why on earth are we having an election? There's over 2 years left in this mandate. I struggle to think of a piece of legislation that the government couldn't have negotiated with one party or another to pass it. We're starting a fourth wave. It just seems, why are we doing this?
I mean, I know that calling the election early, there's a lot of people that are saying that he's jumped the gun, but on the flip side, with COVID going on and everything, I mean, he feels that he could possibly get a majority, and if he gets a majority, then he can pass more of the legislation, everything he wants, without all the crossroads and everything from the other parties. You know, in my opinion, I think that he's calling it a little bit early. I mean, I think he'll still win, but I think it's going to be still a minority.
Just north of Richmond Hill proper is the riding of Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill. This riding shares many of the same issues as Richmond Hill, but it's more spread out and it's wealthier, with many newly built mansions like this one. In fact, this riding is among the top 20 richest constituencies in Canada. It's home to Magna International, dozens of golf courses, and a lot of young families. Many flock to the beautiful Kettle Lake right in the heart of the riding, Lake Wilcox. Despite the beautiful setting and grand houses in Aurora, affordability is still an issue here.
A lot of the voters are going to be looking at which party is going to be able to come out and say we're going to be able to provide that affordable housing to make sure that those that grow up here in this town can grow up, buy a house, stay here, and have a family here as well. So I think that's a really big issue for a lot of people.
Except Aurora is one of the wealthiest ridings in Canada.
It is. We are. I think we're second in the GTHA, next to Oakville, I believe. But you know what? I think that's part of the thing about being able to provide that affordable housing. How do we work with all levels of government to be able to move forward to have that affordable housing in our neighborhoods? I mean, it's an issue right across, I think, Canada. It's not just here in Ontario, and not just in the town of Aurora. But we need to solve that, and it's going to take all three levels. And so hopefully, whoever comes out on top will be able to work with their municipal partners, such as us, to see what we can do to provide that for our constituents.
My name's Leah Taylor Roy, and I'm your federal Liberal candidate. Just coming out to say hello.
Liberal candidate Leah Taylor Roy is running for a second time. So you have 6 kids.
Uh-huh.
How does Trudeau's childcare plan resonate with constituents with children?
Yeah, well, I won't benefit from it anymore. My youngest is now 20, so, I think people really feel that is an important part of our future. I mean, the first Royal Commission on the Status of Women was over 50 years ago, and that was one of the recommendations. You know, when I was involved in, women's issues back in the 80s, it was a huge thing then, and I'm sitting here thinking, wow, it's finally going to happen. And it's happening because we have a feminist government, we have a government committed to women and to families. And some people have been saying to me, oh, this is great, it's going to allow women to get back into the workforce. And I say, no, this is going to allow parents, because raising children is the responsibility of both parents. It will allow men and women to be more fully employed. And we know from Quebec what that will do for our economy and our workforce participation.
But as Taylor Roy is hearing at the door, seniors' issues matter here too.
2 doors down, and our mother-in-law, what they call it, the wages for the people that take care of the seniors in the retirement homes, personal support workers.
Yeah.
God, they need better wages.
I agree.
And better care.
Yep.
Because we've gone through, well, as I say, Danny's mother's 92. My wife's mother is 90-ish. There are others. When I see what some of the support workers are going through, man, oh man, these people need more money, and they deserve it. Man.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about heroes. These are the ladies and the people that are heroes.
Yeah.
They may not be professional nurses, but they do everything else but to take care of people.
They
So
spend a lot of time with our seniors, right? They really do. They're in there. And, you know, it was my first job was working at a senior's home.
Yeah, this is the one thing that comes to my mind.
So through investments and work with provinces and territories, we're committed to raising the minimum wage for personal support workers across the country to at least $25 an hour.
Justin Trudeau's campaign announcement to increase pay for personal support workers will likely resonate in this community. And it's the pandemic that's really brought this issue top of mind.
There's so many concerns. There's a lot. I think in the next year we're going to see a lot of poverty, a lot more than we have right now. I think a lot of people, the repercussions of this COVID is going to come and show in a year. I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg yet.
The closure is killing everything. Our life, our way of life, our willing to live. So they should stop closures one way or another. Vaccinations, giving people 6 vaccinations, I don't care, just open up. If they close again this winter, it's going to be devastating.
What concerns me, where we're going, because it's not going to be gone overnight, this COVID. I think there is a lot, there's no unity. Everybody is scared, everybody doesn't know where they're going. Are we not? We follow this, we follow that. And we don't have a strong leadership, I find now. Like Trudeau made a few mistakes that are difficult to digest a bit. And O'Toole, I don't know his experience. So we have a choice that is very limited.
Leah Taylor Roy says that triggering an election during a pandemic was the right call for the Liberals.
I think there are some people we've been through a lot, and there were some people who are saying, why now? But I think people realize that, the government needs a mandate. Things are very different now than they were in 2019. We've gone through an incredibly difficult time, and I think that the people realize that a minority government is very difficult to work with. So there has been increasing resistance and disagreement, I could say toxicity in the House. And I think there are so many important issues that we have to move forward on that we really need to get a clear mandate, to get back and to get to work quickly on a number of issues, to get through this pandemic and then move on to revitalize our economy and get to dealing with things like the environment.
Finding a way out of the pandemic is important to young people, but so is their economic future afterwards.
For me, I think it'd be mainly cost of living, especially for a teenager like myself. It's really hard to purchase a home, and I want to eventually own a home and everything. I don't want to just rent. I'm going to university in the next couple of weeks, so I hope after university I'd be able to actually own a home. And I love my mom, but I really want to own my own home after university and everything.
Students want politicians to address their issues during this campaign.
Hi, I'm Aiden D'Souza. I'm 22 years old. This is my second time voting in the federal election. I'm in the Bachelor's of Interdisciplinary Studies program at Seneca College.
Hi, I'm Victor Fassini. I'm 22 and I'm at Seneca College in Business Administrative Marketing. And this is my second time voting in an election.
We listened in on Adrian and Victor's conversation.
I think an important topic in 2021 is job stability. Many students that I know have contract or part-time jobs that's not really stable at the moment, especially during the pandemic. I know a lot of students that got laid off and they're not having a good time with it.
Yeah, for sure. We need more jobs that are long-term, full-time positions that are higher paying jobs.
Exactly. Minimum wage need to go up because during this pandemic, a lot of the students, they worked on the front lines. They deserve some recognition and something to go up with that as well.
Even another thing that could help is government incentives or federal level incentives to encourage employers to hire.
Exactly. No, that's a great idea.
So we spoke to two college students today who are worried about their futures and working for minimum wage. What can you offer them?
Well, one of the things is, and I think it's a great program the government has introduced, is the Canada Workers Benefits. So for people, first of all, the federal government has set an example by increasing the minimum wage, and anything to do with the federal government. I think our minimum wage should be higher. People who are working full-time at a job should be able to live properly and not be below the poverty line. And right now they are. So the workers' benefit is designed to encourage people to stay in the workforce and continue to work, and if they're at a level where they're earning minimum wage, it will augment their income through tax credits so that they'll be at the poverty line, and that's set differently for families of 2, 4, etc. So I think that's something we can do right now from the federal government. Of course, a lot of that is set by our provincial government, and I don't imagine Doug Ford is going to be doing anything on that front soon. But I would like to see the minimum wage a bit higher, and I think we've realized during the pandemic with CERB that the level of income people were getting was just sufficient to survive, and that is above an hourly minimum wage. Yeah, they're busy, so I mean, it's better to just, if people are busy, you know.
Leah Taylor Roy has plenty of young people working on her campaign. Professor McDonald says volunteers are key.
I think door-to-door work is probably the single most important part of a local campaign. It's the hardest to do. Where, you know, in 1979 or 1985 or 1988, you could knock on my door and I'd answer the door. People don't do that much anymore. And yet complain that nobody comes to their door.
Thank you.
It's you know, they want to talk to the candidate in the campaign, but they don't want the phone call. They don't like the signs, but how come nobody's running from your campaign? There really isn't anything you can do but try. And try and try and try. If I were managing a campaign now, that's what we would be doing. Trying our damnedest to get to you by phone, to get to you at the doorstep, to find out who you're supporting or where you'd like to move. And that's what a campaign does. And they're all doing it. I mean, God love them. It's hard work. Those are 14-hour days for 36 days. And those people, the volunteers and the campaign staff, are what make democracy work in this country. Nobody pays attention to them unless you're in a campaign. They're the heart and soul of politics in Canada.
As for the Conservatives in this riding, Leona Alleslev is hoping to retain her seat. She was elected as a Liberal in 2015, but crossed the floor to the CPC in 2018.
Mr. Speaker, under this Prime Minister, Canada's position in the world has been diminished, and our ability to deliver on our defence commitments has been undermined by politics.
Good afternoon. Today I stood in the House deeply concerned for the future of our country.
CPAC made repeated requests to Alleslev to talk to us for this election profile, even enlisting the help of party national headquarters to try to persuade her. But she repeatedly refused those requests. And at the time our cameras were in the riding, the NDP had yet to nominate a candidate. For CPAC, I'm Laura Battista.